JGR. Garfield is an iconic comic strip, and it was bound to get a game at some point. There were some minor educational games on the PC. It wasn't until 1995 Garfield would get a non-educational game. Garfield Caught, released in 1995 for the Genesis and Game Gear, and 1996 for the PC. But we're gonna play the Genesis version, because unless you have a PC from the 90s, the Genesis is the best version to play today. So, what is the plot? Garfield is watching TV, as he does, until Odie scares him and he accidentally breaks the TV. Not wanting his owner, John, to see, they do the most haphazard repair job of the century, with way too many pieces missing. Garfield would throw out the spare pieces, which would become the Glitch. Glitch latches onto Garfield and teleports him into the TV, and we, the player, have to help Garfield to defeat the Glitch to escape the TV. So, that's the plot. Let's talk about the levels and the gameplay that's inside them. Before you start each level, you start in a hub world with chips and motherboards of the television. You enter the levels by going through the doors in the hub world. Each level is inspired by a piece of media, like Casablanca or Dracula, for example. Another thing I like is how Garfield has little costumes on in each level. So, the first level. The first level is your boring, generic, spooky, scary level. There's gravestones in the backgrounds. There's bats and ghosts and skeletons as enemies. Another thing is, the level's pretty boring. It's a straight line, basically. But for first level, it shouldn't be overly convoluted. Another thing is, there's waypoints for each level. So if you die during the level, you go back to the last waypoint. The waypoints is Garfield's teddy bear, which is called Pokey. So, the way the waypoints work is, if you die during the level, you can go back to the waypoint. If you game over, you start at the beginning. It's a lot better than many other games of the era, where if you die, you go straight back to the start of the level, which is a plus for the game. But how does Garfield attack the enemies? He has a melee weapon and projectiles, which vary between each level. Garfield does not attack his enemies by jumping on them like Mario, which is good because it makes it more interesting and less generic. So, at the end of every level, there's a TV remote that takes you to the boss battle of said level. So, the first boss battle is Woody the Vampire. Basically, he attacks you with his bats, and you have to wait for him to get into one of the 3 coffins in the boss battle, and you'll pull up the blinds to show light, because light is bad for vampires. And you rinse and repeat until he's dead. Other than that, it's a pretty simple starting boss battle. After you defeat the boss, there will be a second TV remote that will send you to the next level, but there's a minigame before it. There's a whack-a-mole minigame, just standard whack-a-mole minigame. Hit what you're supposed to, and don't hit what you're not supposed to. Then, the Glitch teleports Garfield into the TV, and does a second minigame. Basically, it's collect as much as you can. You collect pokies. It's pretty simple, but the controls are a little floaty, which makes it hard to do. So, after you finish the minigames, you'll continue on to the next level. And that's how every level, except for the last level, will be like. Before we talk about level 2, I wanted to make a little side note about the music. The music's okay. It works when you're playing the game, but isn't good enough to listen on your phone or anything. But anyway, let's continue on to level 2. Level 2 is Revenge of Orangebeard. Okay pun I guess. Not really a pun, just changing black to orange. So, my complaint with the start of this level is it's on a boat, but there's little crabs jumping at you from the water, and the ships that you would think would just be in the background fire cannons at you. Imagine if you don't know if a background is attacking you. Dang, that's pretty harsh. But it isn't too long. After 2 or 3 minutes of the boat going through a cave and you temporarily having to get off it to a platform on skeletons, stones, and moving platforms. Avoid the water because cats do not like water. But the monotony of the level changes. Once you finally reach the mainland, there'll be solid ground, which is good because water levels suck. And another thing is, there's vines that you can climb on, which is pretty interesting. But don't think you're invincible from all the enemies. There's the birds that will attach you on the vines and will make you fall. So you have to kill them, which is annoying when you fall a couple vines worth of height and then you have to start all over again, wasting your progress. But it's good that you're not invincible because you could just chill up there and no enemies could hit you, which is good because it would be very boring and unchallenging if it was true. So you continue going through the level by going up the trees, by platforming on the branches and climbing on the vines until, no joke, you jump off and then you go straight into a cave. What's the point of climbing on the vines if you have to go down, not up? But it's a change of scenery to start the boss battle. Basically, here's how the boss battle works. Start on a raised ledge and there's 3 movable ledges that go into water. Don't fall in the water, hit the skeleton. You can also use this little parrot and avoid his head. Rinse and repeat until he's dead. But when he is dead, you can stand where he was standing and you can open up the treasure chest that he was probably protecting and continue on to the next level. The next level is level 3, Cave Cat 3 million BC. Booga booga noises intensify. This level has a lot of platforming up to higher ground, like the last part of level 2. And it has its standard prehistoric stuff. There's pterodactyls, there's geysers, there's bone bridges, and Garfield have saber-toothed teeth now. Also, there's a little booby trap with one of the geysers. One of the geysers, if you jump into it, you go down into like a water area where you have to use a pufferfish to get back up. It's just a little time waster, but it doesn't kill you, which is good. But it's just annoying if you know what I mean. But when you get up, there's a checkpoint for the level, which is good if you ask me, to kind of apologize for mistreating the player. And that's the end of the first part of the level. The second part of the level is, well, how can I say it? It's a little bit cheesy. I'm not joking. Random parts of the level have this stuff on it that looks like cheese. And there's even melted cheese waterfalls with broccoli as platforms you can stand on. Like, I know Garfield likes foods, but I thought this was meant to reference movies and TV shows, not food, as much. But the rest of the level is pretty similar to the second part of level 2. Simply put, get to the high ground, and hopefully don't fall. There's even cheese vines that act like the normal vines, but they're made out of stringy cheese. Dang, this level's cheesier than cheddar. So, once you climb up the cheesy vines to the exit of the level, you'll do the boss battle, which is Odie as a green dinosaur. So, Odie's stomping causes rocks to fall from the sky. Some are small rocks that will damage the player, and there's a bigger rock that's a boulder. Roll the boulder onto the seesaw and wait for Odie to be in range. Jump on the seesaw and bam, he gets injured. Keep doing until you die. Rinse and repeat. So, how was level 3? Level 3 was okay. My only complaint with it, it's basically a scenery change version of level 2. But they changed it up so it isn't an exact carbon copy. So, what is level 4? Level 4 is Casablanca. The interesting thing about Casablanca, it's monochrome. For the exception of Garfield, everything is black and white. It's which makes sense because Casablanca is a black and white movie and it helps differentiate it from other levels. But that's the only good thing I have to say about the level. The level is a maze. It takes you up to the rooftops, down into the sewers, and there's doors everywhere that take you to random spots, which makes it frustrating to find where you're supposed to go. But when you finally find the exit, there will be a boss battle. The boss battle is against a dog. He has bombs, and the way he does it is he chucks them up onto the fence where Garfield is. But some of the bombs won't explode. So what you do is you grab the bomb and then you chuck it down the pipes that are near the fence, and it will damage the dog. Rinse and repeat until he's dead. It's very standard. Just change something up to make it interesting, but just keep hitting the boss until he's dead. So, how was level 4? Personally, I think it was pretty bad. The good thing about the level was the art style being unique, but the downside was how complicated it was to get to the end of the level, being very maze-like. So, what is level 5? Level 5 is the Curse of Cleopatra. Oh dang, these puns are getting so bad. But that's just the name of the level. Let's actually talk about the level. So, the level is very mazy, but isn't like claustrophobic mazy like level 4. Another thing is there's also more puzzles and stuff. Like there's these statues, if you stand under pressure plates, they'll injure you. And there's these mummy statues that work as jump boosters that get you higher up in the level. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, a lot of the mechanics of the level. So, the level is pretty simple. You get to point A to point B. You just need to avoid a lot of the traps that you could potentially find, which is good because a player shouldn't just go blindly into somewhere, which is good because a player should never throw caution to the wind when they're playing the game. You should be vigilant instead of kind of passively playing it. So, level 5 is pretty short. It's pretty easy to get to the boss. So, let's get to the boss. Boss battle is pretty unique. You light a fire that will cause a hand to come up. You have to go up the hand, standing on it as a platform, and you also have to kill the flies that are trying to attack you. And then you'll have to light a second fire that will cause another hand to come down, and you'll go up to a dog statue and its tongue will fall down, and then you'll set another fire that'll make his tongue extend out. Then you'll have to do it a second time on the other side. You'll hit his eyes. His eyes of the dog will send lasers to the blue sphere with a yellow ring in it. Hit it a couple times, and then the mummy statue will go down to player height where you can actually reach it, smack it a couple times, and then boom, boss battle over. It's a very convoluted boss battle, but it's unique compared to the boring old, just whack it a couple times until it's defeated boss battles that basically every other level in the game had. Which is good, because variety is always good. You shouldn't have the same boringness. I would talk about the final boss, but there's some missing levels. Remember the Game Gear and PC version? There were a couple levels in those versions that weren't on the Genesis. The PC version had a level called Alien Landscape. The level's interesting. It's floaty and gravity. It's like in space. And the Game Gear version had 2 lost levels that aren't on the Genesis version, which is Bonehead the Barbarian, a icy, snowy, winter kind of level, and Slobbin Hood, a wooded, forest kind of level. But these levels weren't Game Gear and PC exclusive levels. There's Genesis versions of these levels, and there is evidence of them existing. For example, I found some Genesis footage of Bonehead the Barbarian. It's VHS quality, but yeah, it existed. But you might be wondering, well, where are these levels? These levels were on a servers called the Sega channel. You just sticked in your Genesis like a normal game cartridge. It allowed you to download games from a cable line, which is crazy for something that was developed in the 90s. The only problem is the Genesis had no hard drive or internal storage, so when you turn the Genesis off, any game you loaded from the Sega channel would disappear. So sadly, the Genesis versions of these lost levels will probably never be found, but they may be found in the future. But until then, we're lucky enough to have the Game Gear and PC versions of these levels. We do have some nuggets of content from the Genesis versions of these levels. For example, on the back of the Genesis box, you can see a level of Casablanca on the train. The only thing is, Casablanca never had a level on a train. And the same thing is true on the Nomad box. There's a picture of a part of the level that doesn't exist in game. So that's the lost content of Garfield Caught in the Act. There's not a lot there, but it's interesting, so I wanted to talk about it. So skip to this time on screen if you want to avoid spoilers. But if you don't care about spoilers, we'll continue to the season finale. So, the final boss. You finally fight the glitch. So, here's how this boss battle works. The glitch shoots lasers at you, and there's a bunch of mirrors throughout the level. The way you do it is you set up the mirrors so that they'll hit the glitch. You'll platform up the computer chips to move the mirrors and keep going up and trying to not fall back down to your death. You keep hitting the glitch many times until eventually you'll reach the top of the TV and you'll successfully defeat him. So, what will happen when you successfully defeat him? Garfield will be successfully teleported back to his couch, and he enjoyed it. And a nice little finishing touch. And that's it. That's Garfield Caught in the Act. So let's rate Garfield Caught in the Act. Of Garfield Caught in the Act is, drumroll please, a 7 out of 10. A decent licensed platformer of its time, but lacks unique gameplay experience over other 16-bit platformers that you can play instead. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe and like if you did. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!